The first time they called the cops on me, I was watering my azaleas. I stood right there in my front yard, garden gloves on, hose in hand, and the blooms just starting to show off after a long, stubborn spring. Those azaleas had been in the ground less than 2 months, and already they bloomed like they belonged more than I did. That's when I heard the tires crunch the curb. I turned around, and there they were. 2 squad cars. Not one. Them red and blue lights bounced off the white vinyl siding across the street like sirens didn't belong there either. Right behind the cruiser doors, out stepped Officer Jenkins. The same one who patrolled peach cobbler stalls at the church potluck like he was making arrests. The other officer was new. Young, pale, blinking like the sun was too much for him. "Just a noise complaint," Officer Jenkins said. I was out there humming a gospel tune while my earbuds played Shirley Caesar. Ain't no party going on but my left hip clicking when I crouched too fast. Noise complaint, huh? He looked embarrassed a little, but stayed on script. "Neighbors said you were loitering." Loitering. On my own property. That's when I saw Mr. Weaver 3 houses down. Standing on his wide front steps, arms crossed, chin all the way up like he was waiting on an apology I wasn't giving. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't yell, I didn't fuss, I didn't cuss or put on a show. I just smiled at that officer, nodded slowly, and said, "Well, I guess I better get back to my flowers, since that seems to be the crime." Then I wrapped up my hose, rolled my eyes in private, and waved as they pulled away. But I kept watching Weaver. Neighborhood manners ran out in his kind after sundown. That man never said a single word to me since I moved into 1217 Rosepat, but he always found a reason to call. Property too close to the street. Porch light too bright. Trash bin colors not uniform. I half expected him to report my wind chimes for unauthorized music. The real reason? I didn't look like what he pictured when he walked this block, and as far as he was concerned, he was here first, which made me last. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. My porch needed some sanding. My front gate leaned just enough to squeak when shut. But I've lived long enough to know when decorum is just a disguise, for we don't want folks like you here. You ever been made to feel like a guest in your own house? Not 'cause of what you say, not even because of what you do, but just who you are. I'm Ora Mae Jerome. I'm 63, and I've got more patience in my pinky finger than most folks got in their whole families. But that morning, when that patrol car turned the corner too slow, like it was daring me to flinch, I felt something shift. It wasn't just about the flowers no more. It was about ownership. Not just a house or a mortgage, but presence, legacy, place. You see, I didn't come from money, Lord. Nothing close. I came from women who paid cash when they could and borrowed quiet when they couldn't, who held on to pots with no handles and dreams with no date. The day I got this house on Rosepath, I felt like I'd finally clawed my way up from making do to making room. But every call, every comment, every cold glance from the neighbors chipped at that. I must have stood there staring for 10 minutes after the cop left, hose still dripping, gloves still damp, the sun leaning hard across my back like it wanted me to move along too. I went inside and made a glass of iced tea, the good kind. Short glass, cracked from an old set, filled with chipped ice and a slice of lemon. I sat at my kitchen table and stared through the blinds. I could still see Mr. Weaver out there clipping his hedges like he was pruning a problem. And I thought to myself, there's got to be more to life than pretending you belong. Later that afternoon, a knock came at the door. I thought maybe it was the mailman finally learning that my name ain't occupant. But when I opened it, it was a courier. Young girl with hair like wild dandelions and too much blush on her cheeks. Delivery from Ms. Ora Mae Jerome. That's me. She handed me a manila envelope, thick at the edges with some kind of fancy seal pressed across the back. No signature needed. Just make sure you read it soon. It's from a New Orleans law office. Before I could ask a thing, she was already heading down the porch steps. I looked at the envelope for a long while before opening it. The script on it was neat, confident, embossed. Said, Paulson and Hightower Attorneys at Law, Estate Affairs Division. I sat back down in my green cushioned chair, wiped my hands on my apron, and cracked the seal. Inside was a letter, typed and formal. That's when everything changed. The letter was simple, clipped, but what it said took the air out the room. It was from a lawyer representing my late cousin, Vivian Daniels. Said she'd passed 2 weeks ago and that I was listed in her will as a designated land heir, not executor. Not a token mention, heir. Said the properties in question were in East Dogwood Parish, 2 counties east of where I grew up, and that she had left her remaining housing parcels to me, spanning 3 addresses along Rosepath Lane. I blinked at the page so long I forgot what breathing was. Then I read the addresses again. Lord have mercy. That's my house, yes, but 1215 and 1219? That's Mr. Weaver's left side rental. And that pale blue colonial at the end of the block? Was this a mistake? I read it twice, 3 times. Same name, volume number. Seal on the deed copy attached in the folder behind it. Now I know what you're thinking. How in the blue sky does a woman buying her first house just find out she's the beneficiary of 2 more right next door? Let me explain. See, Cousin Vivian was no ordinary family member. She was my mama's first cousin, lived in Dogwood Parish for decades after everyone else moved on. Never married, no kids. Careful with her business, exotic with some of her tastes. And rich, but black woman, Southern rich, which means she didn't act like it. She sent odd cards every Christmas, always with Bible verses and cryptic poems. Never called. Once sent me a check for my 50th birthday and wrote, "Someday you'll know." But I didn't think much of it. My life stayed too busy. After Mama died, I stopped looking back in the family tree. Thought roots didn't matter as much when folks stopped showing up to reunions. But now, here she was again. In the form of land. 3 houses. One of them mine already. 2 others currently under tenancy review. Which the letter explained meant they were rented but off-lease and nearing city liens due to maintenance backlog. I didn't know if I should shout or pray. I leaned back, eyes wide, and let the thoughts work their way in. If I held those 3 properties clear, that made me more than a homeowner. That made me something else entirely. Rosepath Lane wasn't mine. But it could be. I put the letter down like it might catch fire. Walked over to the table where I kept my old photo boxers. Inside, I found the picture I needed. The one of my grandmother standing on the porch of her home in Mobile, chin up, eyes hard, Bible in one hand, deed in the other. We don't get moments like this by accident. And we sure don't ignore them when they knock. By nightfall, I had pulled out every record I owned. Tax returns, Deed 41217, property overlays, Google Maps, even found an old napkin from the first meeting with my realtor. Every single thing told me the same silent truth. This wasn't just a gift, it was a calling. But of course, soon as I started asking questions about transfer timelines, who showed up whispering under the radar? Neighbor Karen. Literal name. Housewife, nameplate and all. She showed up uninvited one early morning with banana bread in one hand and suspicion in the other. "I just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood," she said with a smile stretched tight as a church girdle, "and let you know I heard a rumor you might have inherited something next door. Wasn't no time for sure. I nodded with the calm of 40 baptisms. That's right. My cousin passed. Left me some things. She smiled wider. Well, I just hope everything will stay nice, orderly. This street has traditions. I bit into her banana bread. It was dry. But the moment burned warm in me like truth. She was scared. Not 'cause I was new, but 'cause her clean lines and tight lawns couldn't fence me out forever. Especially not with deeds on my side. And what she didn't know yet, what nobody on this street knew, was I wasn't just gonna let 2 extra houses sit idle. No, ma'am. I already started making plans. I had calls to make, people to find. God was up to something. And so was I. I didn't sleep much that night. The wind pressed against the panes like it was dragging messages across the siding, the kind of wind that means something is shifting, even if you can't see it yet. I laid there staring at the ceiling, and I wasn't thinking about flowers, or tea, or banana bread wrapped in tight smiles. I was thinking deeds. 2 houses next to mine, ugly beige on one side, powder blue on the other. Both run down, both neglected. I'd seen the tenants. One was a young man who played old soul records too loud in the afternoon. The other was quiet. Real quiet. Curtains always drawn, porch light never on. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was what the letter said, clear as a preacher's tone. I own those houses now. Well, I would real soon. And the way my heart shaped it, that meant the whole street was about to bend in a new direction. The very next morning, I packed my leather shoulder bag, found some earrings that matched authority, and made my way downtown to the land title's office. I figured I'd better see this mess for myself, in daylight, face to face, before somebody else tried to tuck my name underneath someone else's ink. Now, our city don't exactly roll out the red carpet for women like me trying to claim land, but I walked into that office with posture Mama would have been proud of and determination stuck to my spine. Behind the desk was a man with a buzz cut and a face that hadn't smiled since kindergarten. Name? He asked, not looking up. Ora Mae Jerome. He clicked on his keyboard like it owed him money. His eyes scanned the screen, then narrowed. You're listed on recent claims? Parcel Group 2, BRPT? I nodded. He leaned back in that plastic government chair like he was weighing something holy, then pulled out a slim folder, flipped it open, and tapped on a line. We received a pre-contest notice last week. Some confusion over tax status. Confusion by who? By the current tenants and a partnering entity named Weaver and Associates. You might know them? Honey, it took everything in me not to let my jaw drop. Weaver, of course. That man spent more time walking in circles around his property waiting for the mail than most folks spent working. Now he's got associates? Since when? I smiled soft. Can I see the documents? He hesitated. Not unless you're legal counsel. I can be a whole lot of things, if somebody's lying on my name. He flipped the folder closed, just slow enough to show intentionality, but fast enough to shut me out. That's when the door behind him opened, and in came a woman I hadn't seen in over a decade. Slick scarf, clutch bag, swag in her hips you couldn't buy with all the Harvard degrees in the world. Aunt Shine, I said. She took off her sunglasses like she was stepping out of a movie scene and kissed the air beside my cheek. Chilly, you showed up earlier than I expected, she said, voiced like warm vinyl on a Sunday. I looked at the clerk, who suddenly couldn't breathe. Thought I'd beat the nonsense to the gate, I said under my breath. She smiled without joy. Too late? That man's been trying to get these houses tagged under public nuisance clause for half a year. Only reason you ain't heard sooner is 'cause they thought you'd walk away." She reached into her giant bag and dropped 3 manila folders hard onto the counter. The slap echoed. "These here?" she said, leaning forward. "These are records of continued coordinated IP filings from Weaver's cousin, who's got 3 LLCs all registered out of state. Every paper's built on loopholes, clerical gaps, and code exclusions from before 2006. The clerk blinked. "I'm her legal witness," she added. "Now, either we step in the back and settle this like women with sense, or I come back tomorrow with Channel 3 and a bulldog in a power suit." He waved us through quicker than communion on a hot Sunday. In the back, she let her mask drop. "I told that girl you'd show eventually," she said. "I just didn't think you'd have to walk through fire to do it." "What fire?" "They want this street, Ora. It's not just about color, it's about corridor development. This block sits at the split of 2 zoning districts, residential and commercial. They're planning something. Lord, that explained it. Those businesses closing last winter. Those city council meetings happening with short notice. The coffee shop that turned wine bar overnight. Why didn't anybody say anything? Because they want folks like you gone before it happens. Sell low, flip the land, tax hike the rest." I lowered my voice. "And the tenants? They don't know. They're just pawns. Rent's about to double. Judgment's already drafted." My stomach twisted. I'd seen this happen in Montgomery. In that little neighborhood with brick roads and crepe myrtles where my Aunt Dottie used to sit on crates selling pizzas until the bakeries replaced the buses and the boutiques buried the corner stores. And all the Dotties got swept out like old receipts. Not again. Not here. Not this time. Back home, I laid the folders out on the dining table like chess pieces. Called Caleb first. My younger boy. Always the fire starter. He didn't answer. Then Tasha, my other daughter, again she picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Mama," she said with that wary voice mama wives have when they got a toddler under one arm and Bill's under the other. I walked her through it. Every detail. Except the part about the secret zoning shift. I didn't want to drop all that weight yet. "Should we call Marcus?" she asked. My oldest. I still hadn't told him everything. "Eventually," I said. "But I want the foundation dry before I walk heavy on it." Then, toward sundown, the screen door creaked open and I heard that smooth voice I hadn't heard in weeks. "Well, look who's still got porch lights like stained glass," he said. Mr. Harmon. Flat cap, button-down shirt, scent of cedar and aftershave. Nothing too forward. Just enough to announce intention. "Don't tell me they called you too," I said, scooting a pillow aside. "They didn't need to," he said, sitting with slow knees. "News travels faster than light around this block." He looked out across the yard, where the azaleas were still pink and full, shrugging toward the dark. "Been watching." "I've been knowing," he said. "This block's always had a rhythm, Ora. First, they sneak in with niceness. Then they corner you with safety. Then they shame you with structure." He leaned in close. "They did the same thing to Eleanor Cross on Cahill Street. Told her she had to clean the bricks on her chimney weekly to keep her status. She didn't. They wrote her up. Fined her. Froze her deed for vacancy. Sold the land while she lived in it. What happened? She moved in with her niece downstate, died there, never came back." A silence fell between us, thick and heavy. "You should talk to the man down at Title Services," he added. "Name's Yalin Youngblood, but honest. Black, too." He flagged some filings he thought looked strange in this area. I nodded. He stood. Don't let them shrink you, he said. You're the kind of tree that makes shade for others. Take the ground while they sleep. He walked down the steps, slow but sure, and left me sitting with the echo of his words in the wood. Take the ground while they sleep. I never really knew why Cousin Vivian stopped coming to reunions. Back in Mobile, she used to sit at the end of the picnic table under the pecan tree, quiet as a whisper but listening harder than anybody. She'd show up in linen dresses even when it rained, always smelling like peppermint and rose water. Used to hum to herself like she was tuning a song no one else could hear. Then one year she just stopped showing up. Mama said she was off on some city plans, up in Dogwood Parish with no man and too many opinions. Said she'd joined a neighborhood committee that was trying to stop the city from expanding a highway through the black side of town. That was the last update I ever got. She slipped into legend after that, like quilt patterns the family stops telling stories about. But now, with her name printed across legal documents and those house deeds sitting on my table, her silence sounded a lot more like strategy. You don't leave land like that to nobody unless you're trying to send a message. So I made a trip. Dogwood Parish was 2 counties over. Roads winding through pines and trailer homes and bait shops and ghost churches with windows, busted out but signs still reading, God is able. I pulled up to her block around noon. It was the kind of street that used to matter. You could tell. Even though the grass had grown over the sidewalks and the chain-link fences screamed neglect, the bones were still respectful. Wide porches, screened doors, big windows for watching Sunday walk-bys. The kind of place where folks used to wave without thinking. Vivian's house was boarded up. A worn city code violation notice still taped to the mailbox. Faded into pale pink paper, fluttering like it had its own heartbeat. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not grief, not exactly, but recognition. Like something in that soil remembered me. I got out slow, closed my car door, and walked through the tall grass up to the porch. The front stairs creaked under my weight like it didn't trust anybody no more. I stood there quiet, hand on the doorknob, even though the door was sealed shut. That's when I saw the mailbox wasn't empty. I pulled the flap down, and sure enough, 2 things caught my eye. One was a folded city letter, unopened. The other, a worn brown envelope with my name on it. No stamp, no address. Just handwritten. Ora Mae, when it's finally time. I sat right down on the porch and opened it. I could feel the wind watching me. Inside was a letter, neat pen strokes, curved like the handwriting of someone raised on cursive inconsequence. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I knew it had to be you. You always stopped and listened the longest. You knew how to hear even when nothing was said out loud. I need you to finish what I couldn't. They never stopped trying to take this land, Ora. Not from me. From our people. From the ones buried 2 blocks behind the sidewalk with no headstones. They erased us once before. Don't let them do it twice. She'd included a faint old plat map. It wasn't of her house. It was of my block. Rosepath Lane. Except it wasn't called that. It was labeled Harlan Grove Freeman Section. I traced my finger over it, like touching a ghost's skin. I folded it all up, tucked it in my purse, and sat quiet. The man across the street watched me from his porch, didn't speak. So I looked back and asked him straight. You live here long? He nodded. 38 years. You Vivian's people? I stood. Yes, sir. He leaned on his cane. She walked this street like it owed her deeds in blood. I smiled. maybe it did. He pointed up the road. Check the backlots behind the old bakery. I didn't ask why. I went. Just down from what used to be Mackey's Bread and Feed, there was a gate, half-rusted, chained, hidden behind creeping kudzu and old tires. I pushed it open and damn near dropped to my knees. There were markers. Not tombstones. Just flat slabs. Some wood, some stone. None new. Just initials and one-word carvings. Harlan, Polly, Selene, Free. That was it! Vivian's message clicked in my soul like a key turning. They weren't just after Lent. They'd been after erasure. Wipe out the people, rename the blocks, flip the lots, and sell the legacy for brunch spots and bike lanes. And now they were circling Rosepath Lane the same way. I got back in my car with my fists curled too tight. If you ever want to feel power bloom inside your bones, visit your people's land. Touch a carving done by hand in 1863 and realize someone before you already fought. And now it's your turn to keep the torch lit. Back home, I laid everything on the table and called Aunt Shine first. I went to Dogwood, I said. She exhaled hard. You saw it? I saw everything. You ain't the first, but you might be the last. That night, I didn't sleep again. Not for sorrow, for strategy. They wanted us quiet, grateful, gone. But that block, it had my blood in its dirt now. And I was going to reclaim every square foot they thought they owned. Even if I had to burn the map and rewrite it myself. When I pulled up to the house on Sunday morning, Marcus was already on my porch. Nice slacks, dress shirt, crisp. Tie loosened like he hadn't planned to stay long. He stood with his hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels the way he used to do before getting a whooping he swore he didn't deserve. I opened the car door but didn't greet him. I wanted to see if he'd speak first. He didn't. Just looked out across the street like he was trying to read the neighborhood like a spreadsheet. I stepped up quietly behind him. You come to run the numbers or check on your mama? He turned, half smiling. You always ask questions like pop quizzes. And you always show up when things get expansive. He ran a hand down his face. Tasha said you're fighting the city now? I'm not fighting. I'm reclaiming. Same difference these days, Mama. He walked into the house like it still belonged to him. That boy ain't paid a light bill here since Obama got reelected, but you'd think he paid off the mortgage barehanded. Inside, I laid out the documents. Vivian's will, the parcel maps, the backdated zoning approvals. He skimmed them like a man raised on contracts, not bloodlines. They're not gonna let this stand, he said, pointing to the parcel date. You're sitting on a development trap. You realize that, right? I'm sitting on our history. He sighed. You're sitting on a land war, Mama, and you've got nothing but memories and a rocking chair to your name. I stared at him hard. These memories fed you. Put books in your hands when I was eating government cheese and cleaning teeth for 12 hours a day. Don't come in here measuring me with city metrics you don't even apply to your own house. He shifted. But he didn't argue. You know, they're opening a cafe 5 blocks east called Magnolia Collective. You'll be the last black woman owning anything within 10 blocks if they finish this development. Then I guess I'll be a tree in the middle of a forest of sawdust. His phone buzzed. He looked down. Didn't answer. I watched him, seeing that look he gets when he's not sure if he wants to be on your side or the safe one. Then he asked it, soft. What do you want me to do? I smiled without teeth. I don't need loyalty. I need competence. Grown-up competence. I need someone who understands contracts and loopholes as well as he understands spreadsheets and bandwidth. He sat down. Finally. Like listening took less energy once resistance left the room. I'll look into the filings, he said. But if we get caught in this web, you can't act like they didn't warn you. I've been warned since birth. He didn't speak after that. Just flipped pages while I brewed coffee, even though my hands trembled on the kettle. Later that evening, Tasha called. Her voice was soft, but edged. Am I doing the right thing, staying out of it? You tell me, baby. I don't like seeing Marcus torn, but I read what you sent. I see it. I just also see what it could cost. All of it. You want to know something? What? Costs don't frighten me like regret does. She took a breath. Can I bring Anya by? She's been asking questions about where we come from. All this talk of history. She's old enough to see something real. Bring her, I said. Let her see what it means to stand in it. And that's how I found myself the next day, walking a 6-year-old with pink barrettes and Lego earrings down Rose Path Lane, showing her where her people used to plant sugar tomatoes before there were fences. She asked the kind of questions only children ask. Why did they want to take the houses, Grandma? Because sometimes, baby, people don't see houses. They see control. Is control like being mean? Sometimes, but most times, it just means making sure other folks don't get a say. Do you have control? I got a voice. That's stronger. She nodded, then skipped off after a butterfly. That girl's got more faith than a dozen preachers and more courage than most men I've met. When I got back, a letter was waiting. City letterhead. Stamped urgent. Inside, a final notice. City redevelopment request. Permissive acquisition filing accepted. Which means they filed to purchase my inherited lots under public interest. That cute legal phrase they use when they want to say, we're taking it whether you like it or not. I went cold. They were going to fight dirty now. I circled the paragraph. Resolution date, pending hearing, vote. 7 days. 7? I stared out the window at my block. Mine? I walked outside, crossed to the blue and white house on the end with the busted mailbox, and knocked. A teenage girl answered. Is your mama home? I asked. She nodded, disappeared into the house. A minute later, the tenant came out, wiping her hands on her shirt. You're Miss Ora Mae, right? I am. She looked embarrassed, then nodded. I didn't know there was all this going on. He just said, my lease be cheaper if I didn't ask questions. He? She hesitated. On Rose Path parcel 12 through 19 will be cleared under Ordinance 37G. Due to lack of utility registration and community project dissatisfaction. The crowd murmured quietly, and on came our chairperson leaning in. The woman who claims the legacy title on 13, 14, 16, Ora Mae Jerome, was never confirmed within the city's official hearings. As the hearing on a nearby proposal turned, camera focused on Weaver, whispering to Marcus. Marcus nodded, a long, slow nod. Disarmed, not tormented, not conflicted. Confirmed. Tasha didn't intervene. She just stood there, observing me without comment. After all, some questions didn't matter anymore. In the evening, I received a drafted letter from a friend of Aunt Shine's, an old civil rights attorney still burning with passion. Addressed to the city clerk. This request aimed to invalidate the seizure vote based on the conflict of interest linked to her family and the property. That part isn't important. The important part is what followed. Within 3 days, I took Ania for a walk to the overgrown garden trail in Rose Path, where it once was a community walkway. She selected a few blackberries from the ground. "Did you ever walk here when you were my age?" she asked. "No, sweetie, this used to be someone's property back then." "Do you remember the playhouse in front of it, painted with names?" I turned to her. "What names?" She unfolded the wrinkled photo, holding it out to me. "Fred, was that here?" "No, sweetie, that was back on the far side of the street. There are lots of houses here now." Ania looked at me with curiosity. "Who lived here?" I leaned back in my chair, watching her gaze search the shadows. It was her. Of course, she asked a question that could never be answered. And that was all. They'd renamed the people. Paper after paper, picture after picture. I layered them over each other. Harlan Grove had been a legally recorded black-owned freeholder section carved out by ancestral property liens, passed from hand to hand without going through the county recorder, because back then, that was safer. But somewhere after 1972, it vanished. Like the whole community was moved 6 feet under without a casket. And now, the parcels I held weren't just homes. They were part of a footprint trying to reemerge. I stared again at Ania's photo, heart pounding. How could a child hold the key to something generations tried to recover? Because kids don't forget what grown-ups learn to ignore. I kissed her forehead, then got back to work. 3 days after I saw that photo, after everything Ania reminded me of, I walked up to City Hall and pressed the button on the intercom like I was fixing to settle a bill from 7 generations ago. They buzzed me through too quickly. Guess they recognized the name by now. I wore all white linen two-piece. Green scarf tied around my hair the way my grandmama used to when she was digging potatoes and resisting shame. I took my time up those steps. Folks turned to look, but no one spoke. Some lowered their eyes. People always feel your spirit before they hear your voice. The council meeting was packed, folding chairs pulled tight, shoulder to shoulder with real estate men in glitter watches and interns pretending not to write down everything I did. I sat in the second row. Marcus was across the aisle. He wouldn't look at me. I could feel his eyes touch my presence, then back away ashamed. Weaver was seated 2 spots down, smug and supremely unbothered, like somebody had sold him a victory that came gift-wrapped with silence. But it didn't come silent. 10 minutes in, they started the docket on Rosepath parcels. The city recorder began dry, the way liars begin when they think they're done digging. Prior claim has been challenged by a municipal buyer due to discrepancies in continuity filings post-1990. I raised my hand. The recorder hesitated. Another member leaned forward. "Mrs. Jerome, please file your objection through." I stood. Clear, calm, steady. "I have an emergency motion and the original land indenture files predating all zoning. Arguments under 2006C. Murmurs. They always mutter when something interrupts their expected win. I walked to the podium. Aunt Sheen smiled from the back row like she'd been waiting on this scene for 40 years. I placed the handwritten files on the desk. These are primary family liens from the Harlan Grove Collective, filed in person, witnessed, and binding. I have notarized validation, a photo predating the zoning wipe, and a community member who survived the resettlement. The chair stiffened. "You're referring to?" "The burial map behind Mackey's bread lot?" A visible silence moved across the room. I paused. Held it. Let it stand like an all-black choir in absolute stillness before the first note. They didn't interrupt me again. These people didn't disappear. They were filed, then bulldozed. Same signature that tried to wipe them erased my cousin's will. I authorized a forensic audit yesterday. It will show a forged early transfer 2 weeks before my cousin passed. Initials matched the clerk who married Weaver's niece. A gasp. No rebuttal. Just shame. Sweet, thick, southern shame. Marcus finally looked up. Not at me. Through me. Like trying to reach a version of himself before he said yes to the wrong man on the wrong day for the cheapest reason. Councilwoman Denise Harris, one of the few who hadn't turned into stone, leaned forward. Are you saying your inherited deed was illegally sold behind your back? I'm saying this block ain't a real estate flip. This is a resurrection. And you can't auction off ghosts without their names haunting you. Then I stepped away from the mic before the spirit made me say too much. Afterwards, I sat on the curb behind City Hall with my hands trembling, heart refusing to slow down. Mr. Harmon walked up with a small brown paper bag. Inside, a peach hand pie and a napkin with the initials WJ. This how we win, he said. By staying? I almost cried into that pie. Didn't even offer him a bite. Later that night, Marcus came to the house. Didn't knock, just stood in the doorway like he knew he owed not one apology, but 10. I didn't mean to betray you, he said. You didn't betray me, I answered. You betrayed your own memory. He froze. You betrayed that boy who used to run through Harland Grove with your shoes untied, drinking Kool-Aid from milk jugs and waving at everyone who waved first. You forgot him. He sank onto the porch steps like the world got too heavy behind his ribs. I didn't let the silence make it easier. You sign anything else with that man? He shook his head. I stopped when I realized he wasn't trying to rebuild. He was trying to rename what already belonged to somebody. I sat beside him. Didn't say much. Just let him learn how to breathe through bad decisions. The next afternoon, Aunt Shine arrived with her church notebook. I found something, she said. She laid a yellowed page on the table like gold leaf. The early transfer, it was backdated, but the notary came from Jackson County. And guess who paid that notary's travel voucher? I already knew. Weaver's Foundation, I whispered. They'd been laundering ownership with nonprofit names to dance around tax fraud since before Katrina. And the Playhouse used to be a neighborhood school, closed during the merger years, turned into storage, then burned under suspicious lightning fire. Now it was just land. Like everything else we lost. She looked at me like I'd always known what came next. You ready for the vote? I was born for it. I didn't sleep the night before. Again. Braid my hair back, wear Mama's pearl earrings, and light a candle given to me by Vivian with gold angel on the side. I entered the court not for myself, but for everyone unseen, hoping to bring justice. However, it didn't. Justice lingers, waiting for paperwork, whispered by men with clipboards. The city didn't cancel the vote. It merely delayed it. Waiting for further investigation? This isn't justice. This is a way to avoid the truth. I was not tired. Not yet. Even after the yellow paint incident. It happened on 2 nights later. I stood on my porch at 6:35 a.m., seeing someone had spray painted a message on my white fence. Go back. This isn't merely about our community's choices. Instead, it speaks of the walls that hide the truth from many, and how walls can change when spoken from a single voice. I did not call the police. I didn't immediately clean it up. After some neighbors' nonverbal avoidance, old Miss Carol next door scrubbed the paint with water and baking soda. Why, you ask? because she thought moving here would be safe. Just as the walls may speak, sometimes a single word reveals the truth. I remembered this story as it echoed my recent experiences in Mobile, Alabama, where some white bureaucrats ignored a slur and made it worse, with some graffiti that tarnished a beloved home's windows. This story's lessons resonate with me as I continue to seek truth in politics. I called my attorney friend. He said, "Blink." I didn't. After that envelope showed up, I studied it closely and found a copy of a legal deed form. The name Marcus was scratched out, and my name was added. It was a photocopy with bold strokes, like aiming a spear at my name. The message was loud, louder than yellow paint. The next bomb dropped following my tenant's cry for help. I knew I had to protect my name and my tenants. Not just my name, but the ones I inherited after joining this block. Before Friday, I had to choose sides to protect my name, my jobs, and my family. I kept my promise to stay and let Caleb stay. In that moment, I knew this was just a part of the journey. From protecting my name to protecting people. And this journey will never end. Next morning, I brought him to Rosepath's edge, where the lots curved toward the eastern line. "This one here," I said, "was where a plum tree used to bloom. Far back as I can remember." "There ain't no trees now," he said. "No," I replied. "But the roots still remember." We stood quiet together. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't feel alone. I felt angry, tired, betrayed, but not alone. The next morning, I found a plain white envelope slipped under my storm door. No return label, no handwriting, but inside, typed in 12-point font, no signature. "Your final vote date is Wednesday at 9 a.m. sharp. No delays. Be there or be erased." That was 6 days from now. They weren't planning to tell me until the day of. They wanted silence. They wanted me caught off. Instead, I put on pants and called the news. My cousin's daughter works as a junior producer over at WRJ7, the local channel that mostly covers softball scores and rediscovered cats, but she owed me a few favors, and favors have better legs when shame's involved. 2 days later, a young man named Tyrese showed up in khakis so stiff they crackled. "I understand Mrs. Jerome is preserving some historical parcels," he asked as he adjusted his boom mic. "I'm preserving my people," I said, "and the receipts that prove they were here." We filmed in front of 1217, my house, and then walked the fence line. I showed him the now clean slats where the yellow words once dripped with venom. Then I walked him to the old lot with Aunt Sheen waiting. She brought the paperwork. And Lord, what paperwork it was. The original Harlan Grove founding charter, signed by 12 freedmen and 3 women in 1882. A copy had been tucked in a pastor's church Bible, only found when they cleaned the rectory 2 years ago. Nobody outside that circle even knew about it. But she had it. And now, so did I. Yep, that land wasn't just repurposed. It was erased. With purpose. Tyree got quiet mid-filming, his camera hand shaking just a little. "This isn't just a legacy story," he said. "This is..." "Justice with ink on it," I interrupted. "Now press record." We told it all. Vivian's trust, Marcus's betrayal, the forged backdate, the renaming of black burial ground parcels into development lots, the slumlord LLCs, and the cultural sterilization. I said it slow and sweet so nobody could say they heard it wrong. He thanked me, promised the 6 o'clock spotlight. By that night, the whole neighborhood knew. Some waved. Some didn't. But they heard. Even Weaver heard. He came by the next day. Didn't step onto my porch. Just stood in my grass like poison ivy in a polo shirt. You think shaming me will change what's already in motion? No, sir. I think truth shames itself better when it's printed in prime time. He faked a smile. You could still make this easy. Walk away. Get paid. Come out ahead. What are you doing? I don't feel safe. Me neither. But we can't risk going out there. We might just need to see what's going on. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not letting her out there alone. We don't have much choice. I know, but if she's all right, they can't keep us safe from the ones that want us. She's not all right. Do you want to see what's really out there? We can't stop seeing what's out there. But I'm not leaving her down there alone. I'm with you. Thanks. They looked at her through their sunglasses, the raindrops gathering life to their eyes. The world outside had always been a mystery, but now it was different. Like stepping into another world made of fear and rain and shadows. They hugged her hard, kissing her forehead. I always thought you'd make something of yourself. I thought you were my friend. I'm here for you. They looked back at him, the world growing brighter. I don't want to be alone ever again. I never wanted that either. They turned back, making their way inside. Rain and shadows swirling together. Hope and courage lighting the way. Let's buy the rest. I looked at him sideways. Caleb, we just stopped them from stealing. We ain't out the fire yet. I know, he said. But while they sleep in from this loss, let's move quiet. He handed me a folder. List of 5 vacant lots no one's claimed. One is Grandma Pauline's original garden. We got enough. I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I held out my hand. Let's do it. And just like that, I started preparing to own not just my block, but their memory too. I woke up to birdsong that morning. Not trucks, not sirens, not someone dragging their bins at 6 in the morning like they mad at the pavement. Birds, ordinary, unapologetic birdsong. And for the first time in Lord knows when, I didn't feel like I was fighting the day before my feet even touched the rug. I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the ring on my finger. Still there. Still real? Pauline S. Jerome. Our name had been dragged, forged, forgotten, but it had never been erased. And now it belonged to something again. By noon, I'd filed the final forms with the city. The paperwork to establish the Harlan Grove Community Land Trust, chartered with legal boundaries, generational oversight, and a mission that would have made Vivian smile with all her teeth. The trust included the 3 homes she left me. The 2 parcels Caleb found. The lot Aunt Shine confirmed still had garlic growing wild from the last harvest season before everything folded. And the smallest parcel of all, a corner lot, barely 30 feet wide. That used to be the bus stop where Mr. Posey waited in pressed pants every morning, hat in one hand, paper in the other. That lot don't pay taxes, but it carried memory. So I claimed it anyway. Caleb helped me set up the bank account, official filings, all under my name, but tied to the nonprofit designation so if I ever passed, the trust couldn't be unmade by greedy hands. Why not name it after you? He asked, filling in the form. I shook my head. It never belonged to me alone. It belongs to back then and right now. So Harlan Grove is just fine. He smiled, nodded once, then went ahead and listed me as founder anyway. Later that afternoon, I walked the border of the final lot. Corner of Rose Path and Dewey Circle, where the property line joins 2 fences and a broken gate. And there it was again. A rocking chair. Old paint peeling. framed in weeds so tall they waved like gossip around the knees. But she was whole. 3 slats cracked, 1 screw loose, but not broken. Not discarded. Just waiting. I sat, rocked, let the wind carry whatever it wanted. Tasha arrived an hour later with Anya, and 3 canvas totes full of construction paper, glue sticks, bits of colored string, and 1 clipboard thicker than a church directory. We made signs, Anaya said. What kind of signs? The kind people put in yards when they're not afraid anymore. I laughed, loud and from my belly. She pulled one out. Hand-painted, tied with green yarn. It read, "Property of Harlan Grove, legacy family, not for sale." I looked at Tasha. "You made these?" She came up with the phrase, "I was just the paint girl." "We made 20, Anya said. "But I can make more." "We'll need more," I said. "You think people will be mad?" "They already are, baby." "And we still here?" She smiled like she understood something I didn't yet. That night, I waited for the streetlights to come on like fireflies. I watched the block shift. I watched Miss Carol walk her dog 3 doors farther than she used to. I watched a little boy I didn't know ride a squeaky bike down the pavement like his life had never been, threatened by bureaucracy. And I drank peach tea from a cup nobody had tried to rename. Progress never comes all at once. It comes drop by stubborn drop. Tomorrow, I was going to hold the naming ceremony. No ribbon, no photo op. Just family, friends, food, and the dropping of 1 sign into the dirt that told the world, "You're not getting this back." We earned it again. The morning of the naming ceremony was humid, but soft. The kind of warm that wraps around you like a quilt fresh from a sun-whipped clothesline. I was up before the birds. Got my hair tied, my house swept, my greens slow cooking on low, and my spirit waiting to settle. At 7:42 a.m. sharp, my phone buzzed. A voice message from Marcus. I stared at the screen for a long time before pressing play. Then I sat down before I fell down. His voice sounded younger. Like the boy who used to bring me hot tea when I came home from double shifts just to keep my hands from cramping. He cleared his throat, then started talking. "I don't expect you to listen all the way through, Mama, but I hope you do." A pause. I got scared. That's what it really was. Not of Weaver. Not of losing money. Scared of how strong you were. Scared that I wasn't enough like you. Everybody else wants to inherit power. I wanted peace. And I thought peace meant pleasing the people with the pens. He breathed like he was still pacing a rooftop office. "I know what I broke. And I don't have a blueprint to fix it. But I transferred my name off those forms. I called the clerk myself. Caleb probably already told you." He hadn't. "And if there's still space for someone to pass out sweet tea and sit in the last folding chair left, I'd like to come by." End of message. I sat there for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't shout. Just whispered, under my breath, "Good." Then I got dressed. Tan skirt, sage blouse, that ring still snug on my right hand, and my red lipstick, the one color that had never lied to me. By noon, the lot was alive. Tables set on grass. Butterflies darting beneath white canopy thread. Aunt Shine wore a yellow dress and brought peach jam. Mr. Harmon, in suspenders and a pressed hat, spoke only after I touched his shoulder. The crowd was bigger than expected, with neighbors, distant cousins, and 3 old men from Dogwood Parish. Kids ran with streamers, Tasha managed juice coolers, and Ania presented a handmade map of Harland Grove. Then and now. Ania revealed a hidden path leading to a forgotten garden. We announced the Harland Grove Legacy Land Trust, celebrating history's survival. That night ended with joy and belonging, leaving me in peaceful solitude, rocking and breathing, holding Ania's map in my lap. My photo box was open beside me. Old pictures. Me, Mama, Vivian, 3 girls in a faded photo in front of a painted playhouse, long gone. Hands clasped, feet dirty, future unknown. Now, we're still here. We are the block, and they know it now. I tell stories like this one, real ones, the kind that peel you open and pour sunlight on what hurt. If you're still here, listening, still breathing with me, then bless you. And now I want to know, what would you have done? Would you have backed down? Would you have walked away from land, from blood, from memory? Tell me in the comments. Drop your story. Because I'm not the only one. If you've ever felt erased, overlooked, or like you had to fight just to stay, this story is for you. And if this touched your heart, leave a heart below. Subscribe to Tales of Ora Mae, so next time, you don't miss the moment the porch light stays on just for you.